or it populates your intestinal tract with these live probiotic bacteria that maintain health. In fact, there's even some evidence that regularly eating foods with probiotic bacteria will eventually improve or heal autism. So if you don't want to be, if you want to, of course, none of you are autistic, thank God, but it's having a preponderance of probiotic bacteria in your intestinal tract means you always will be healthy. You won't catch colds, you won't get infections, and even if you eat something that's infected, you won't get sick. So eating sprouts and yogurt on a regular basis will keep you healthy. Okay, very good. Any other homework? Okay. Oh, so you made sprouts, good.
Yeah, and yogurt, but it's like fading because it's not.
It's too liquid?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's because you didn't keep the right temperature. I told you to make yogurt, you need to have a thermometer. So if you put the yogurt into the milk and it's over 115 degrees, you won't get good yogurt. If you put yogurt in the milk and it's less than 100 degrees, you won't get good yogurt. It'll become like that. It'll be water. 115. It has to be at 115. Okay, go ahead.
So the homework was to look up Hans de Leon and explain why his name is in history.
Yes.
And study 3.16's purport and explain in depth what the last line of the purport is.
Did you write that down? What she just said? Yeah. Did you do it? Okay, good. Go ahead.
So Hans de Leon was a Spanish explorer who
Do we have a microphone? Is there a microphone? One second. We don't want to miss one word of your homework.
So Ponce de Leon was a Spanish explorer who founded the first European settlement on Puerto Rico and was the first European to reach Florida. On April 1513, he landed on the coast of Florida at a site.
April 13, what year?
1513.
1513, the 14th century, same time as Lord Chaitanya.
He landed on the coast of Florida at a site between St. Augustine and Melbourne Beach.
So, can you say that Ponce de Leon or Christopher Columbus discovered America, the Americas? No. Why would you not say that? Yes.
Because it was already discovered by the Native Americans.
It's already there.
Yeah.
They just discovered it because of the Europeans, from the point of view of Europeans, but it was already there, right? It's not like, sometimes you say, he discovered America. It sounds as if they created it or something, right? But it was already there. Right? They just didn't know about it. Okay.
So that's also why his name is in history. And the last line of 3.16's purport.
No, wait a minute. There's some more.
Oh, and he also found the Fountain of Youth.
Did you write that down, or are you just saying that?
Yeah, I wrote it down.
Read the rest of it then.
That's all I wrote for Ponce.
He found it?
He discovered the Fountain of
He
Youth.
did? No, he was looking for it.
Oh, he was
He
looking for
never
it.
found it.
Oh.
If he did, he could walk in the room right now. No, he never found it, but he thought he found it, or he thought he was close to finding it, but he never really found it. So why did he want to find the Fountain of Youth?
He wanted to be immortal.
Yes, he wanted to be immortal, right? You just keep drinking it, you keep staying young. So, do we know today what is the Fountain of Youth? answer is yes. It's called Bhagavad Gita. If you understand Bhagavad Gita and live according to Bhagavad Gita, you'll become immortal. Is it not? Go back to Godhead. It means you're immortal. Okay, go ahead.
And the last line of 3.16's purport means that people with moral values think that doing good to others is the best thing and the purpose of life. That means if you serve people, it's like serving God. Oh, sorry. So the last line of 3.16's purport means that people with moral values think that doing good to others is the best thing and the purpose of life. In India, there's a saying, Manav Seva is Madhav Seva. That means if you serve people, it is like serving God. But that is not true. If you're serving God, that means you're serving His children. So the real purpose of life is to serve Krishna. Simply having moral values and no devotional service is of no use. On the other hand, if one performs devotional service sincerely, then all the good moral values will develop in a person automatically.
Good. Okay, now there's one other little point that we should say. So it says, in the purport itself, not the last line, but before that, one who does not follow, okay, it says, it's talking about yagyas. First of all, what is the Mammonist philosophy? You know? Go ahead.
It's like the philosophy where only making money. It's all centered about how you can make money.
Well, is it like smoking marijuana and making money?
Yeah, sense gratification. No, making money and then for sense gratification. One second.
Can you hold the microphone near you so we can hear the mistakes you make?
So it's making money for sense gratification.
Hold the microphone.
Making money for sense gratification.
Well, if you just smoke marijuana, will you make money?
No.
So what do you have to do to make money?
Work hard.
That's it. So the Mammonist philosophy is work hard and make a lot of money for sense gratification. Got it?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that what you were going to say, Shweta?
Yeah.
You were going to say the same thing. So that's called a Mammonist philosophy. You should learn what this means, because Mammonist. I don't have my cell phone. Let's look it up in the Wikipedia. Mammonist is, if I'm not mistaken, it's a biblical word.
Yeah, it talks about mammon. I think there's a person in the Bible named
Mammon was okay. Can you look up Mammon then?
No, wait.
I'm not sure if it's a city or if it's a man.
I think it's a man.
Okay.
Mammon.
Give her the microphone. Don't throw it.
It's like an evil influence or false object of worship and devotion. So it's like...
It's not a man.
It's not a man. But the examples here says, others have forsaken mammon in search of something on a more spiritual plane.
Wait a minute. Others have forsaken what?
Others have forsaken mammon in search of something on a more spiritual plane.
Okay, so can you look up what mammon is?
Wealth regarded as an evil influence or false object of worship and devotion. It was taken by medieval writers as the name of the devil of covetousness and revived in this sense by Milton.
Name of the devil of covetousness?
Yeah.
Name of the devil of covetousness.
This is a reference from the New Testament, apparently.
Okay. So, do you know what covetousness means? You know what covetousness means? Shivani, you know what covetousness means?
No.
Okay. You know what covetousness means? We've gone over this word. Covetousness means that you have very strong material desires. And there's very powerful material desires. So they talk about the devil of covetousness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So when you have such strong material desires, you become like the devil. What does that mean? The devil is sinful, right? So you'll commit sinful activities because you can't control your material desires. Yes.
How do you spell covetousness?
C-O-V-E-T. Covet. Is it E-S-S or O-U-S? It's O-U-S, N-E-S-S. C-O-V-E-T-O-U-S-N-E-S-S. Covetousness. Yeah, so this is a biblical word in the New Testament, right? And it's a name for the devil of covetousness, right? Is that right? So when it says the devil of covetousness, that means that the Christians in the New Bible considered excessive material desires as devilish, as sinful, because it'll lead you to sin. Like, for example, I'll give you an example. You can look this up in the internet. Just type in a female employee cheated the Social Security system. See what it says. Now, usually, covetousness or excessive material desires develop over a period of time. It starts little, and then it gets more and more, and it gets so much that you can't control it anymore. So it's. Did you find anything? No? Okay.
Is it female employee?
Yeah. I just put employee, don't put female. C-O-V-E-T-O-U-S-N-E-S-S. T-O-U-S-N-E-S-S. Anything?
There is an article about Social Security fraud.
Yeah. What's it say?
Yeah, and it says, as of November 2014, there were 59 million beneficiaries receiving monthly benefits checks, of which nearly 42 million were retired workers.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and then it says, however, another factor that isn't helping the SSA's cause, which is largely flying under the radar, is Social Security fraud. And then it says, the ridiculous way the SSA is being defrauded. With the Internal Revenue Service recently reporting that sophisticated cyber criminals attempted to gain access to around 200,000 taxpayers' accounts and file fraudulent returns on their behalf, it shouldn't be surprising that the Social Security fraud is a problem for the SSA.
SSA, Social Security
Act.
Act.
I found another one this way.
Okay, go ahead. Say out loud.
SSA employee charged with fraud for allegedly stealing $680,000 in Social Security benefits. Is that?
Okay, so who is that? Is that an employee?
Yeah, it's a Social Security Administration employee.
Okay, so does it say how it started?
Yeah, Annie Rost, I think.
What's
Who
her name?
worked as Annie.
Okay.
Worked as a claims specialist at the SSA's field office in Aurora. Aroste was responsible for processing applications for Social Security benefits via the agency's electronic records system. According to the indictment,
Isn't it pronounced via? Via,
is it via?
I think it's the Italian pronunciation.
Is it via?
Look it up. VIA, how to pronounce it. I might be wrong. I don't know. Go ahead. If you look up in a Merriam dictionary, it also, you click on something, it shows you how to pronounce the word.
Wait.
Really? Does it say that? Yeah. Because via is the Italian way of pronouncing it, I think. Does it say both ways?
Yeah.
Or is it-
It shows the pronunciation of
Okay. All right, go ahead.
Okay. So according to the indictment, Aroste created fraudulent applications for the benefits of the Social Security earnings records of deceased workers. She then used her employee credentials to approve the applications and route the payments to bank accounts she controlled, the indictment states.
Around the United States.
Yeah.
No, okay, so usually these type of things start small. And, you know, the cheating. But as soon as they get that free money and spend it, then it increases because their greed increases. And at a certain point, they get so greedy and they don't pay attention anymore, they get caught. So it always starts small. And then as they get that money, start spending and buying things, their desire to buy more things just increases, so they have to steal more. And eventually, they make mistakes because they're so anxious to get the money and buy things, they get caught. You see? So covetousness is that increasing of the desires. The more you succeed in stealing, the more you want to steal. And then you eventually get caught. But it begins small. It begins little, and then your desire increases, so you have to steal more, and then your desire increases more, you have to steal more, and then your desire increases more, you have to steal, but you start making mistakes because you're not paying attention, you're so anxious. You assume that you're going to get away with it because you got away with it before, and eventually you get caught. See? It's like scratching an itch. You say you have an itch and you scratch it a little bit, and it feels good. And then later on, the itch comes back again even stronger, so you have to scratch harder. And then it goes away and feels good. And then it comes back again even stronger. So pretty soon you're scratching like anything, you're bleeding, and you get infected and so forth. So it's the same thing with desires. If you don't know how to control material desires, they start small and then they get bigger and bigger and bigger till you lose control completely, and then it causes your downfall. You get into big trouble. Does it say anything else?
She started with one.
Read it out, or say it out loud on the microphone.
So the indictment describes 5 instances.
It means the accusation against her by the police.
It describes 5 instances she allegedly caused the application to be submitted. Started with one in 2012, then and then 2013, 2014, more. So she continued to do this, and then Treasury.
Okay, class is over. You have homework for next week because there's a program this morning. So if you come late, the class is going to end early. If you come early, the class will end on time. The class has to end as soon as the deities. Jai Shri Gauri
Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha 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 Jagannatha Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Jagadeva Jaya Subhadra Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra Gauranita Jaya Gauranita Gauranita Jaya Gauranita Jaya Gauranita Jaya Gauranita Gauranita Jaya Gauranita Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Gurudev 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jai Gaura Haribo 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Look, it's absolutely imperative that you come on time to the class. You can't just walk in at 8:30 and expect to have a class. If you don't come on time, then we're going to stop the classes. Because what's important is to be regulated in spiritual life. That means, if you really want to have the class, you have to go to sleep early on Friday night to wake up early enough to be here on time. You can't have spiritual life without regulation. And the thing that defines your, let's say, enthusiasm to learn is to be regulated. You have to go to school on the right time, right? You can't show up late at school. Do you go to school on time, Arush, every day? And do you go from one class to another very quickly to be on time? Inside the school? Huh? Well, when you get to middle school or high school, you have to go from one class to another. And you only have a specific time. 5 minutes. And if you're not on time, they mark it down. They ask you, why? So, if you're serious enough to go to school on time, in the mundane karmi school, why can't you come on time to spiritual school in the temple? I don't understand. You should be more on time in the temple than in the other schools. Do you go to school late every day? Do you go to school late? How come you come late here? No, that means you're taking this as a joke, and you're taking the other thing, which is a joke, as serious. That the education you get in the other school is a joke. It's nonsense. This is serious. This is serious education, so you have to take it seriously. You have to be here on time. The parents also should make sure the kids come on time. The class starts 7:30. It doesn't start at 8:30. So, you have to the parents have to be regulated, and the children have to be regulated to be on time. Okay. So Prabhalika, she left? She's not. Okay. But she did good homework. Okay, so Shrestha, you were going to read your homework?
So the assignment is look up Ponce de Leon and explain his life story and why he's in the history books. And then study the purport of Bhagavad Gita, 3rd chapter, 16th verse, and explain in depth what the last line means. So, the first question, Ponce de Leon. Ponce de Leon was a Spanish conquistador or an explorer who was most famous for discovering Florida. Although many other explorers have reasons such as spices or gold or other riches, according to legend, Ponce de Leon was looking for something that was worth even more. He was looking for the Fountain of Youth. The Fountain of Youth is a mythological spring that supposedly reinstates the youth of anyone who bathes in its waters.
It's a mythological spring.
Spring.
Spring means like some kind of magical water. And mythological means?
It's like from the myths. It's a story.
What?
It's from the myths. It's a story.
It's something that people spoke about it
Yeah.
earlier, and it doesn't mean it's false. It just means that if they were speaking about it, that means that something must be there. But when they say mythological, they call the demigods in India mythological also.
Yeah.
And they call the Srimad Bhagavatam mythology also. See, this is the mistake of modern life. They consider the ancient scriptures as mythology, like Greek mythology. But that is false. That's what you call a misnomer. Write that down. M-I-S-N-O-M-E-R. Misnomer. It's not like Miss, M-I-S-S, nomer, like a name of a lady that's not married.
Wait, can you say the word?
M-I-S-N-O-M-E-R. Is that the right spelling? Let's look it up. Misnomer. It's not like M-I-S-S, the next word, N-O-M-E-R. What would that mean? M-I-S-S, second word, N-O-M-E-R. What would that mean, Krishna? No, a female name who was not married named Miss Nomer. Just like at school you have Miss Evans, right? But this is misnomer, M-I-S-N-O-M-E-R, one word. So what does it mean, misnomer?
Is a name that is incorrectly applied to a thing.
Yes, so that's what, when you apply mythology to the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, that's a misnomer. That's not correct. The Srimad Bhagavatam is not mythology. Mythology means something that's basically not true, but is spoken about. So, the mythological fountain of youth, right, that Ponce de Leon was looking for is basically something that was spoken about, but no one ever really knew where it was or if it was actually factual. Okay, go ahead.
The Fountain of Youth is a mythological spring that supposedly reinstates the youth of anyone who bathes in its waters. There are various tales.
Bathes in its water, so it's not something you drink.
Yeah, you have to take a bath.
Okay, so now, that's another point. It is not a misnomer.
What?
There is actually water that you can bathe in that rejuvenates your youth. How do we know that? What? Say it out loud, will you?
It says it in the scriptures.
Where does it say it?
I've heard it somewhere.
Yes, you're right. You're right. You're correct. If you read Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a story of Chayavana Muni. Now, Chayavana Muni was old, But he was able to marry a young, pretty woman. And he knew that his wife was sort of forced to marry him. So he knew she wasn't happy because he was so old. So what did he do? He offered to two demigods that were the Ashvini Kumars. They were like brothers, but they were like, in a sense, Ayurvedic doctors. And he offered them to give them something that they wanted in return for them making him a young man again. So what did they do? They took him to this Sarovar. This Sarovar is a type of, let's call it a magical lake. It's not magical, but it has the spiritual water. And when you bathe in it, you become young. So the idea of a fountain of youth is coming from the Vedas. And there was actually something like that. It's not a fountain that you drink from. It means it's water that you bathe in, and it makes you young. Now, I want you to look up thessalotherapy. 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 You see it? You got it? Yeah. What's it mean?
The use of seawater in cosmetic and health treatment.
Yeah, it's bathing in a type of seawater that makes you healthy.
The last one.
Yeah. So, how do you spell it? Is it T-A-S-S-O or T-H-A-S-S?
It's thalassotherapy. It's Thalasso therapy.
Okay. So this is something that's practiced today. You can go to special spas and they give you the salotherapy that it makes you healthy, makes you look younger. Doesn't make you younger, but it makes you look younger, right? It makes you healthy. But there is such a thing as a fountain of youth. It's in the Bhagavatam. And that filtered into Europe, and it became a mythological fountain. But it's not mythology. There is such a place. It's called Bindu Sarovar. And Chayavana, and you can read the history of Chayavana Muni. That's your homework. You find out Chayavana Muni, C-Y-A-N-O-V-A-N-A, Chayavana Muni, in the Srimad Bhagavatam. His story is there.
Wait, can you spell his name again?
C-Y-A-N-O-V-A-N-A, Chayavana. Look it up and make sure the spelling is right.
C-Y-N-O?
Probably not active.
You can get younger, yeah. You would end up 3 years old instead of 13. Huh?
It doesn't work today, right?
It says it did. Do we believe what the scripture says? You know.
Can we just go there?
Well, it's not so easy just to go there. You might look for it and not see it because some things like that are invisible. They only become visible because of purity.
Oh, everybody's
It's like, for example, Chayavana Muni had to get knowledge of where it was from the Ashvini Kumars, who are demigods. Right? C-Y-A-N-O, C-Y-A-N-A-V-A-N-A, Chayavana. Is that right? Oh, C-H-Y. Chayavana. C-H-Y-A-N-O-V-A-N-A? Okay, just spell it real slow for everyone. Go say it out loud. C-H, okay. Y-A-V-A-N-A. Chayavana. Muni, M-U-N-I. Okay. So you see, we're starting with something that's, in American history, Ponce de Leon, right? But we end up back on the Bhagavatam. Because all knowledge is coming from the Vedas. But when it goes Western, when you get to Spain and then you get to the United States, the farther west you go, the more impersonal it becomes. That means that the farther west you go, the farthest west you could go is Japan. Japanese are all impersonalists, complete impersonalists. But as you go west, it gets more and more impersonal, and it gets more and more atheistic. So, for Ponce de Leon, it's a mythological fountain. But in Bhagavatam, it actually exists. And it's part of the Vedic history. Yes.
Wait, so the homework is to...
Look up Chayavana Muni in the Srimad Bhagavatam and write down his history. So you see there's a correlation now between Ponce de Leon and Chayavana Muni. And the more you study Bhagavatam and the more you hear about the nonsense history of the Western world, you'll see that almost everything comes from the Bhagavatam. But it becomes what you would call dumbed down, It becomes mythological. So that's why when the Western people came to India, like with the British colonization of India, they claimed that the Bhagavatam is mythology and that the Bible is real. It's just the opposite. They came, they called everything in India mythology. Why do they call it mythology? Because they're not able to understand it, because they're not willing to be regulated according to Vedic Dharma. So they don't think it's real. They think it's a bunch of nonsense. Okay, go ahead.
There are various tales which discussed the glory of the Fountain of Youth, and it is said that Ponce de Leon was told by the Native Americans that if he went to Bimini, which is a place... Bimini, which is a place somewhere in the vicinity of Florida. It's Bimini, B-I-M-I-N-I.
How do you spell it?
B-I-M-I-N-I.
Bimini.
Yeah, which is a place somewhere in the vicinity of Florida. He would find the Fountain of Youth. This is how Ponce de Leon discovered Florida and was hence added to the history books. Ponce de Leon was an example of a Mammonist because all of his hard work and efforts were put in because he wanted the fountain and was obviously attached to finding it and restoring his youth.
Now look how hard he works to find the fountain. He goes all the way from Spain and uncharted waters, and he finds eventually Florida. He talks to the native Indians. I don't know, that's interesting how he could understand what they were saying, right? It doesn't say that. There must have been some Indian that learned Spanish.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he talks to the local Indians and says, yes, there is such a thing as a fountain of youth, but it's in Bimini. Now, where's Bimini? Right? So it could be anywhere. So did he ever find the fountain of youth?
No, he never found it. Yeah. So Mammonists are people who are devoted to pursuing wealth. Their formula for life is work hard, sense gratification, repeat. And then the second question is explaining the last line of Bhagavad Gita, 3rd chapter, 16th verse. The last line of Srila Prabhupada's purport to Bhagavad Gita, 3rd chapter, 16th verse states, indirectly, it is the practice of Krishna consciousness, because when one masters the performance of yajnas, one is sure to become Krishna conscious. But if by performing yajnas one does not become Krishna conscious, such principles are counted as only moral codes.
Okay, what does it mean? Counted as only moral codes. What is that? Krishna.
Like moral codes are the things that like you would do in like moral codes are like the laws, like state laws, or the like customs in your family.
Now you're off track. Now easy. Okay.
There are the full four pillars of religion: the cleanliness, austerity, truthfulness, and mercy.
Well, if Krishna is not involved in those four principles, then they're moral codes. But if Krishna is involved, which he is, they're not just moral codes. They're more than that. It's religious truth. So what's the simple definition of moral code, Shrestha? Now, the simple definition of moral code is knowing the difference between right and wrong and acting only for the right. Okay? That's the simple definition. Right? You don't have to go off here or there in tangents.
When it says it becomes nothing but a moral code.
Right. That means it's divested of Krishna. Krishna's not involved in it.
But is it right or wrong?
No, in many circumstances, it's right. Okay? Like, for example, previously, it was believed that abortion is sinful. And therefore, because the American Constitution is based on many principles that come from the Bible, abortion was considered sinful. And when it goes into law, they don't say it's sinful, they say it's against the law. Right? But then, in 1962 or 3, the Supreme Court said that it's not against the law. So now, people think that, I mean, what do they teach? What did you learn the first day in your reproductive class?
That abortion is the best option.
Yeah, see, it's not sinful anymore. It's the best option.
Other than, let's say you have a baby and other than giving the baby to like a foster care, like where parents can.
Yeah, let's say that a woman is going to have a baby, but she doesn't want the baby. So after the baby's born, she gives it away, right?
That's one option, but then after that, they said that abortion was the best option.
So they say that it's better just to abort the baby, kill the baby, and it's legal, right? Whereas before, it was illegal, and it was considered morally wrong. But because of these phony, well, we won't go into all the details, but because of phony definitions, they made it legal. And therefore, now it's considered morally right. You see? You see, so morality is not always true. But in general, it's defined as the difference between right and wrong and acting always right. But that can be fluid, right? So therefore, there's a higher morality. What's the higher morality? It's Krishna consciousness. And that's the main subject of Bhagavad Gita. What is the higher or highest morality? Okay, go ahead, Tristan. I'm sorry I keep interrupting you, but... So what's the real subject? What's one of the main subjects of Bhagavad Gita? Yes, Narush? Highest morality is Krishna consciousness. Highest differentiation between right and wrong is Krishna consciousness. Morality means knowing what is right and wrong. Okay, go ahead.
One should not therefore limit his progress only to the point of moral codes, but should transcend them to attain Krishna consciousness.
See, moral codes can be, they're not always right. They can be wrong. And we have the example of abortion.
Yeah. In order to understand this paragraph, first we must know the definition of moral codes. Moral codes are a set of rules or guidelines that people follow in order to have a good life. What Srila Prabhupada is explaining here is that there are instances where one may follow the prescribed yajnas and not become Krishna conscious people. At this point, the people are only performing the yajnas as moral codes or ways to make their lives better and are not understanding the real end goal of such sacrifices.
Okay, so now, this brings up another subject. That is, many people today say, I don't believe in organized religion. Samart, what is organized religion?
Like, they're like,
What's it mean, organized religion?
organized means like made or
Organized means like the class. This class is organized to be on time. Right? That's organization. You have to be on time. Right? So organized religion means it has rules and regulations.
yeah.
Okay? So people say, I don't believe in organized religion. My religion is to do good. Is that morally correct?
No. It is, yeah. Morally, it is correct, but
Is it correct as far as Krishna consciousness is?
no.
No, because you can make you can make anything moral. Just like we just discussed, they made abortion morally correct, where it's actually not correct. You see? So just being morally correct, in other words, Shasta's definition for morality was what? Living the good life?
In order to have a good life.
Yeah. It's a set of guidelines that people follow in order to have a good life. So, in order to have a good life, you have to drink some wine. Because they think wine is good for your heart. And there's a lot of articles that say it's good for your heart. That doesn't mean it's true. It doesn't necessarily mean it's true, but people believe it. Just like Ponce de Leon believed that there's a fountain of youth, right? But he never found it. So something that's morally good does not necessarily mean it's actually good. There's different rules for living in different countries and different people and different religions and so forth. You see, like in Islam, they believe it's good killing animals and eating them. And they believe the more animals you kill after Ramadan, the more Allah is pleased. What? Yeah. Yeah. See? So, and they say it's a morally correct thing to do after Ramadan. It's to slaughter a cow or a sheep or whatever, or a goat, and offer it to Allah. And then distribute it to the poor people as prasad. We'll discuss that another time, but just get the idea. This word moral, especially if you take the definition that Shrestha gives, there's a better definition. It's knowing the difference between right and wrong, right, and acting right. But that is, as I said, that's fluid, because they used to believe abortion is wrong, and now they believe it's right. You know. So you want to read your definition again for moral?
Moral codes are a set of rules or guidelines that people follow in order to have a good life.
Okay. So see, this is a very relative thing. A good life is different in Saudi Arabia from what the good life in America is. You can define it differently. Okay, go ahead.
What Srila Prabhupada is explaining here is that there are instances where one may follow the prescribed yajnas and still not become Krishna conscious. At this point, the people are only performing the yajnas as moral codes or ways to make their lives better and are not understanding the real end goal of such sacrifices.
What's the real end goal?
Krishna consciousness.
Become a lover of Krishna.
Yeah. The entire point of sacrifice is to actually get rid of our sense gratification mindset and to begin following Krishna consciousness. This is explained in the translation of Bhagavad Gita 13 chapter 16th verse, which states, "My dear Arjuna, one who does not follow in human life the cycle of sacrifice thus established by the Vedas certainly leads a life full of sin. Living only for satisfaction of the senses, such a person lives in vain."
So the person who says that I don't believe in organized religion, my religion is doing good. Well, what does he mean by good? That's the question. So, in one sense, he means, well, when I see some guy on the street, Vietnam vet, I don't have enough to eat, please give me something, God bless. You ever see anyone like that? So someone feels sorry, he's standing there, there's a red light, and, he's looking at you through your window, right, and you're trying to avoid watching him. And every once in a while you want to look at it. So as soon as he catches your eye, you feel a little guilty, so you take some money out. Right? So now, he has the money that you gave. So what is he going to do with it? If he goes into the 7-Eleven and buys some beer, you get 1/6 of the sinful reaction. Even though you didn't drink the beer, you didn't buy the beer. But you gave him the money so that he could buy the beer. Or he might buy a hot dog. Take that thing out of your mouth. Go wash that pen. You stuck it in your mouth. Why don't you stick your foot in your mouth? It'd be cleaner than sticking the pen in your mouth. You ever stick your pen in your mouth?
No.
You see kids doing that in school?
I used to.
You used to. Okay. That's one thing you learned here. Haribol. Okay, so you get 1/6 of the sin, even though you didn't buy the beer and you didn't drink the beer, but because you gave him the money to buy the beer, you get 1/6 of the sin for drinking beer. You see? So that type of life where you feel morally good, or you feel you did a good act because you gave, you gave a hot dog to a homeless guy who was hungry, but it's not actually good. Now, if you give prasadam, it's a different thing. But if you give him the money to buy beer, or if you give him a hot dog to eat, it's not actually good. It's sinful. Right? So, without Krishna consciousness, simply moral codes will not actually help you free yourself from the cycle of birth and death. See? And that's basically what he's saying here. Go ahead.
The word vain is especially important. Vain means producing no result or useless. Krishna is saying to Arjuna here that a person's life is useless if they do not follow the cycle of sacrifice or if they remain in sense gratification. That is why Srila Prabhupada is clearly stating in the last line that those who are performing yajnas should not become stuck at the moral codes but should transcend to Krishna consciousness, because otherwise they are missing out on the entire purpose of performing the sacrifice in the first place.
Very good. Without Krishna consciousness, all this, morality stuff is mundane. And in some cases, it's even sinful, even though it's moral. Okay. Very good. That's it? Okay. Anybody else? Okay, Ria. Let's hurry up because they're going to have this wedding ceremony soon.
Who was Ponce de Leon and what did he do? Ponce de Leon was a Spanish explorer and conquistador. He led the first official European expedition to Florida, and he was the first governor of Puerto Rico. He was born in 1460 in Santervas de Campos, Valladolid, Spain.
What? Sent there by?
Santervas de Campos, Valladolid.
Okay, that's the name of some rich guy that was living in Spain. He funded him.
He died on July 1521 in Havana, Cuba. On April 2nd, 1513, Ponce de Leon spotted land on his expedition. He named it Florida. It is said that he was searching for the fountain of youth in Florida.
You know what Florida means? The word?
Florida?
Yeah.
Florida was flowers?
Flora is flowers.
It said he named it La Florida because there was a flower festival going on in Spain while he was on his expedition.
Okay.
And it is said that he was searching for the fountain of youth in Florida. It is supposed to make anyone who drank it young again, but he died on his second expedition to Florida and didn't have more time to search. And the next homework was explain the last line of the purport of Bhagavad Gita 3.16. The line is, one should not, therefore, limit his progress to the point of moral codes, but should transcend them to attain Krishna consciousness. This means that one should
to rise up above simply following moral codes to attain Krishna consciousness. So that means Krishna consciousness is a higher morality. Okay, go ahead.
This means that one should first be expert in the moral codes to progress from sense gratification. But by nature's law, this human form of life is specifically meant for self-realization. To progress to self-realization, one has to attain Krishna consciousness. Just moral codes will not help. One has to transcend them.
Very good. Next, Shivani.
I didn't do the Ponce de Leon homework, but I did the 3.16 one.
Go ahead.
And basically, the purport basically just says that if you want to enjoy material life, you need to do yajna, and this life is meant for self-realization, and you can attain that in one of the three ways: karma yoga, where you connect to Krishna through yajna; jnana yoga, where you learn about Krishna and you teach it to others; and bhakti yoga, where you serve Krishna unconditionally.
So
And
see, if you just follow the system of yajnas, and it helps you live a good life, but you don't actually become Krishna conscious, then it's also considered a waste of time. Even though you have a good material life, it's considered a waste of time. Because what is the purpose of the material creation? Read it. And go back to Godhead. That's the purpose. That's why we appear in the material world. We chose to separate ourselves from Krishna to enjoy independent of Krishna. But Krishna gives us a chance to go back to Godhead in the human form of life by learning, by the process of yajna, by which you can get all desirable things for living comfortably and also become Krishna conscious and go back to Godhead. But if you just get stuck on getting desirable things for living comfortably, but you never progress to becoming Krishna conscious, then it's considered a waste of time. You wasted your time in the human form of life, and there's no telling what you'll be in the next life. You might not even be a human being, especially if you stick pencils and pens in your mouth. Right? Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
so yajna is planned in a way where even if you perform it for sense gratification, you won't get entangled in material nature. So if you perform yajna for like your own desires, like for your own benefits, you won't get entangled. And when one masters yajna, he automatically becomes Krishna consciousness.
Krishna conscious.
Sorry, Krishna conscious. And so the last line says that one should not therefore limit his progress only to only to the point of moral codes, but should transcend them to attain Krishna consciousness. Basically what that means is that you should not perform yajna for your own benefits, to basically, like, you should not perform yajna to lead a good life. That's basically limiting your own progress. Instead, you should perform yajna to attain Krishna consciousness. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, the problem today is most priests, Hindu priests, just perform the yajnas to have a good life, and not really to attain Krishna consciousness. That's a very tragic thing, but that's what's going on. Go ahead. Good, thank you. Very good. Arush. What? Here, let me see them. Now, okay, homework for next week. You have to transform your sprouts into a type of preparation I'm going to explain to you. Good. It smells really good. What milk did you use to make the yogurt?
I don't know what's
You probably used the temple yogurt, milk. Anyway, it's good.
Oh yeah, we did. Yeah.
Yeah, you used the temple yogurt. Oh, wait a minute, it's getting wet here. Good. Now the next question, this is the hard question. Are you going to eat that? Huh? You are? Oh, you know, I was going to tell you how good it is to eat fenugreek seeds, sprouted fenugreek seeds. It's one of the best things for your health. And so, now, what you did, you made mung sprouts and you made fenugreek sprouts, right? So your homework is to take the sprouts that you made and blend it in a blender with yogurt that you made. And then add honey to it.
So take the sprouts, blend it with the yogurt, and add honey?
Yes. No, well, yogurt, if you blend it, it becomes very liquidy. So that'll grind the sprouts also at the same time. If you blend it together with yogurt, the whole thing will become like a milkshake. And add honey. Huh? Then you have to offer it. Yesterday, see, everyone was doing these demos, right? I was the only one that said, you have to offer this before you eat it. Yeah. Did you notice that? You know, everyone else was just, okay, now you can eat it, you know. Yeah. Yeah. All right, so now you're going to eat your sprouts once you mix them with the yogurt and add enough honey so that it'll be sweet. Well, no, you give your opinion whether you liked it or not after you drink it, okay? Okay, now here come the deities, so we have to give our obeisances to the deities. Is it the deities? Yes. Okay, Jai Shri Ram, Jai Shri Ram. Come on. Okay, so Arush, go ahead, please, quick.
De Leon question. So, Jean Ponce de Leon, commonly known as Ponce de Leon, was a Spanish explorer and known for leading the first official European expedition to Florida. And the first governor of.
What happens after Christopher Columbus
Yeah.
discovered that there's land going west? They didn't know that. They were looking to go to India.
Yeah.
They wanted to go a different way to India, because to go to India, they had to go all the way around Africa. It was a very long trip, so they thought, let's try going west instead of going east. Maybe we'll find it also. So they didn't know what they were going to find, and Christopher Columbus discovered that there is land going west, and he thought it was India, but it wasn't. So they called it the West Indies. Have you ever heard of that name?
Yeah.
West Indies?
Yeah, I learned it in school.
And they discovered these, Christopher Columbus discovered these islands, like Caribbean islands. So then, because he discovered that, when he went back to Italy, but the news got out in Spain also that if you go west, you can find land, on newly discovered land. So Ponce de Leon was funded by a rich Spanish guy, and to buy the boat and have the sailors and pay them and have enough food, to get across the ocean. So then he discovered Florida and Puerto Rico. Go ahead.
He was born in San Gervas de Campos, Valladolid, Spain, in 1471. Ponce de Leon was looking for the fountain of youth. Well, it didn't exist, and he thought it did.
He thought what?
The fountain of youth existed.
Yes.
Well, he never found it.
Okay. Next. That's all you need?
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Be very quick. Go ahead, you're first. Read slowly and loudly so we can understand what you're saying.
First question was look up Ponce de Leon and why his name's in history. So Ponce de Leon was born in Spain in 1460. In the early 1500s, he heard about reports of gold near Puerto Rico and said, Puerto Rico.
What?
Gold. 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 He heard about gold in
Gold.
near Puerto Rico, and settled near what is now San Juan. San Juan. A year later, having found a lot of gold, he was named the first governor of Puerto Rico. The Spanish crown, being encouraged by Ponce de Leon's prophets, encouraged Ponce de Leon to explore more and increase the gold mining efforts. Later in 1512, Ponce de Leon got to know about a Caribbean island called Bimini, which was believed in the 16th century, which had the fountain of youth, and was believed that whoever bathes or drinks its waters will turn young. While on the search for the fountain of youth, he would declare himself as a governor of any land he came across. Finally, in March 1513, Ponce de Leon led an expedition to Bimini from Puerto Rico. Later, he and his men landed on the east coast of Florida. He thought that he had landed on another island, and he named the region Florida due to its floral vegetation and because he discovered it at the Easter time.
Flora vegetation.
Floral vegetation.
Okay, flora of vegetation. In other words, flowers.
Yeah.
And also because he discovered it at the Easter time, around Easter. So the second question was study 3.16 and explain.
We learned from that description that originally he was looking for gold. But then he found out, and then he discovered Puerto Rico. Or no, Puerto Rico was already discovered.
No, he was the governor of Puerto Rico, and he found gold in it.
So he's the one that found gold, or he heard that there was gold?
He heard that there was gold, and he's the one who found gold.
Okay.
The second.
I wonder if there's still gold in Puerto Rico. Is there? Puerto Rico is considered a poor island nowadays.
The second question was study 3.16 and explain in depth in own words what the last line means. The last line of Bhagavad Gita 3.16 states that one should not therefore limit his progress only to the point of moral codes, but should transcend them to attain Krishna conscious. In this context, moral codes means doing yajnas only for the purpose of satisfaction of demigods. That is for sense gratification. So this line means that we should not just do yajnas for the sense gratification, but instead we should do yajnas to attain Krishna conscious.
Very good. So Ponce de Leon, he was looking to get rich. And then once he got rich, he was looking to get immortal. Right? That's exactly what people are doing today. Like Mark Zuckerberg, Larry Page, Larry Ellison, these are all billionaires, and they're all investing big money to find a way to be immortal. Google has invested $1 billion in a company that's trying to figure out how to make people immortal. Ria, stop playing that game. Right? So you see, what Ponce de Leon was doing 500 years ago, they're still doing it today. They're still looking for that fountain of youth so that they can be immortal. Okay, go ahead.
Look up who Ponce de Leon is. Ponce de Leon was a Spanish explorer, and he is known for leading the first European expedition to Florida. He accidentally found Florida. He was looking for the myth of the not a myth anymore, for the fountain of youth, which is a fountain where you bathe in the water to become younger. He was a top military official in the colonial government of Hispaniola, basically in Puerto Rico. So the second one was study 3.16 and explain the last line in depth. The last line of 3.16 states, one should not, therefore, limit his progress to only the point of moral codes, but should transcend them to attain Krishna consciousness. The start of the quote means that a person should not limit themselves to only follow the simple moral codes like the rules set by the state. That's actually not true. But
can you read that again?
One should not limit themselves to only follow the simple moral codes like the rules set by the state. The part where it says like the rules set by the state, that's wrong. Because morality is like right and wrong. What is right and wrong?
Well, you might say that following rules made by the state will mean that you'll live right. But you see that the United States made abortion legal. So following that rule doesn't mean you're doing the right thing. Okay.
And the rest of the quote says that...
And also the United States recommends that you should eat some meat. Yeah, they have the food pyramid, and meat is in the food pyramid. Okay, wait a minute. Let him finish. You can say that. Go ahead. Finish.
So, and then the other part of the verse states that you should transcend you should transcend morality to attain Krishna consciousness. Transcend means go beyond. So you should go beyond the simple right and wrong.
You should transcend mundane morality.
Mundane morality.
Based on living the good life, which means eating good meat, and having an abortion, whatever.
Yeah.
It can mean a lot of things, right? You mean some things that are good, and it could also mean some things that are bad. So that's mundane morality, as opposed to the supreme morality as taught by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. Okay?
Yeah.
All right, next.
Children. Look up Ponce.
Closer to your mouth, but don't swallow it.
Look up
Ponce de Leon explained who is he and what he did. Juan Ponce de Leon was born in 1474 in a noble family in Leon, Spain. He was a Spanish
So it went
explorer.
Ponce de Leon. That means this guy named Ponce that comes from the city called Leon. Got it?
He was a Spanish explorer.
Explorer.
And found
Explorer. That means he was looking for things.
Okay.
Finding new things.
Who found the island of Puerto Rico, where he discovered gold and fertile land. Then in 1513 he went in search of Fountain of Youth and found Florida. The Fountain of Youth is believed to be a spring that restores the youth of anyone who drinks or bathes in its water.
Good. All right. Is everyone ready? Okay, you didn't read, right? Go ahead.
I didn't finish the second one.
What?
I didn't finish the second one.
Okay, I understand. Oh, you have to finish.
Study 3.16 and explain in depth in own words what the last line means. The last line of Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, verse 16, states that one should not therefore limit his progress only to the point of moral codes, but transcend them to Krishna consciousness. Here, moral codes means doing yajnas to satisfy one's desires. So the line means that the aim of yajnas should be to attain Krishna consciousness than to satisfy oneself.
Very good. Next. Come on, we have to hurry. We have to finish.
Who is Ponce de Leon? Ponce de Leon was an explorer and a conquistador, and the first European expedition to Florida, and he was looking for the Fountain of Youth and the first governor of Puerto Rico. Ponce de Leon best remembered for settling of the island of Puerto Rico, for directing the first major explorations of Florida. He made 2 trips to Florida to find the Fountain of Youth, one in 1513 and the second in 1521.
Okay, very good. So, your homework. First off, you look up the history of Chayavana and the Srimad Bhagavatam. And write a synopsis. S-Y-N-O-P-S-I-S. Synopsis. Let's look that up. S-Y-N-O-P-S-I-S. A synopsis is, what is it? S-Y-N-O-P-S-I-S. Write it down. S-Y-N-O-P-S-I-S. You have to write down this word. This is part of your vocabulary. Yes? Okay, that's it. A brief summary. So you have to write a brief summary of the history of Chayavana, or a synopsis of Chayavana's life in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Got it? 1. 2, you have to take your yogurt and sprouts and blend it and add what? Add salt? Honey. And next you have to eat it. Or drink it. Huh? Oh, you have to offer it. Yeah, after you After you offer it, you eat it. Okay? Number 3. You have to read Bhagavad Gita 3:17 and answer the following questions. Write down. Question 1. I'll tell you. Explain what is satisfaction in the self with a small s. Satisfaction in the self with a small s. What does that mean? And you get more plus advantage if you understand the difference between self with a small s and self with a capital S. Self with a small s and self with a capital S. No, you're in 317. And first question is, what does it mean, satisfaction in the self? You have to understand what that means. And you get some extra points if you can understand what's the difference between self with a small s and self with a big S. We've discussed this before in class, but it's probably a long time ago, so you forgot. Okay, so now, second question you have to answer from this purport is, what happens when your consciousness is purified? Second question. What happens when your consciousness is purified? Question 3. What does it mean when you're, by the statement, your duty becomes self-illuminated? What does that mean? Your duty in life becomes self-illuminated. Your duty becomes self-illuminated. ILLUMINATED. Self-illuminated. Okay. So you have three-pronged homework. P-R-O-N-G. Pronged. Three-pronged homework. 1, you have to look up the history of Chayavana Muni and write a synopsis of his history. Yes. Yeah, you brought the, okay, but now you know what to do with it. Okay, let me see it. Let me see it. Oh, so you made chickpeas. Okay, so that's all right. You can still do it. You mix it with, you blend it with the yogurt, and you add honey. You add enough honey so that it's nice and sweet. Good, very good. Chickpeas, let me see your chickpeas. Did you cook those?
No.
No, how come some of them are black? Why is it black like that? Okay, take out all the black ones.
Okay.
And then all the rest of them you blend, okay? You did? Let me see it. Okay.
I made 2 different types.
You made 2 different, okay, and you made your yogurt.
Yeah.
Your yogurt's a little liquidy.
Yeah.
All right, and you mix it and add honey. Oh, you did mustard seeds. Oh, mustard. It's not going to be so good if you mix it with yogurt. How do you open this thing? Okay, see, these are... Okay, so mustard, you can blend it with... blend it with olive oil. Yeah, with blend it in a blender, right? With olive oil, and you can add some. Add a little bit of salt, very little salt, olive oil, and then you can mix it with your food. It adds. It's like a what's called a condiment. It's a like a spice blend. You can mix it with your rice and eat it.
Did I blend both of my sprouts together?
Yeah, you can. Okay, this is good. It's good. It's good. So you blend it, add sugar, not sugar, add honey, and eat it.